Hi, I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. An advert out of Germany causes social media outrage.
It was just announced there was no collusion with Russia, the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. There was no collusion with Russia. There was no obstruction and none whatsoever.
Nope, nothing, no collusion. Twitter melts down over the Mueller report. Tourists are making a disaster site more of a disaster by their presence. And one man's attempt to make his way around Europe via windsurfing. Well, at the top of our news feed, when is an advert sexist? It may seem like an easy one to guess, but for some reason, advertising execs in Germany made one that was so sexist you'd have thought it was a parody, but it was for real. And then came the social media reaction, and social media was not happy. Karen has the detail.
With the slogan, "Looks like but saves my life," this safety campaign was always going to draw attention. But quite how much, the German Transport Ministry couldn't have predicted. These posters were printed to encourage young cyclists to wear helmets, but some in Germany's government coalition says it's sexist.
It is embarrassing, stupid, and sexist when the transport minister markets his policies using naked flesh.
They want the €400,000 campaign to be dropped. But Transport Minister Andreas Scheer appears unfazed, saying the target group is young men and women who spurn helmets on aesthetic grounds. Meanwhile, the campaign is already being mocked on social media. The Minister for the Family, Franziska Giffey, also a social democrat, posted a picture of herself on Facebook writing, "with helmet and clothed." Ida simply reckons there is a new contraceptive, and Gina tweets she'll start cycling, although it will be with her clothes on.
Well, it is finally out, and it's finally vindicated President Donald J. Trump. The special counsel report by Robert Mueller into collusion between Donald Trump and Russia has found there was no collusion between Russia and Donald Trump, despite Russia's best efforts. Well, Mr. Trump tweeted, "No collusion, no obstruction, complete and total exoneration. Keep America great." His daughter wrote, "Truth is the best vindication against slander." That's apparently a quote from Abraham Lincoln, of all people. And then Don Jr. added he never thought he'd see the day that Democrats were unhappy a president had not colluded with Russia. And it wasn't just the president's family who were happy. Many Republican politicians were delighted too, but there was also the other side. All those people who'd pinned their lives and in many cases reputations on Mueller finding Trump guilty of something were left, of course, a bit bereft. Perfect example, this tweet from James Comey, who Trump fired, remember. He wrote, "So many questions," along with this picture of him looking at trees. The comedian Sarah Silverman wrote, "Great news, there was no collusion. Now the president can focus on those Russians who attacked the 2016 election." And Dr. Eugene says the full report must be released so the people can make a fully informed decision, without which many will assume the president is an unindicted criminal. So what would actually change? All right, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. The petition to get the UK government to cancel Brexit is by far the most popular UK government petition in history. More than 5 million people have signed it, and that number keeps increasing. This video also went viral over the weekend. It's of the million or so who marched in London to send a message to Theresa May and her government that, with less than 2 weeks until the UK leaves the EU, they are not happy with the direction the government is setting the country upon. And over the weekend, for no specific discernible reason, the hashtag #AWorldWithoutTwitter started trending. People writing on the platform about what it would be like if the platform didn't exist. How 2019. Now, I liked these ones. This one says, "In a world without Twitter, I'd have to write pithy sayings on a rock and throw them through your window." This one says offended people would have to yell in the streets, and this one, me following you would be kind of creepy.
But exploring is not a game, and you don't look before you leap.
I'm okay, Boots.
And if you are of a certain vintage, you may well be entirely too excited by this next trailer. It's for the live-action movie of the cartoon Dora the Explorer. The trailer tells me it's part classic fish-out-of-water high school romp, part lightweight Tomb Raider remix with added kid-friendly jokes. It's out in August. Now, the Chernobyl disaster was a huge moment in history in terms of the environment and energy generation. And now the site, which was made a wasteland by radiation, is coming back to life. Nature has found a way. But the place has another problem.
It was the worst nuclear disaster the world had ever seen. The explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant near Pripyat, Ukraine, released 400 times more radiation than the 1945 Hiroshima atomic bomb. More than 3 decades on, the risk from radiation is so low, Pripyat is fast becoming a tourist attraction. But with the tourists comes a new threat to the area: trash. A group of volunteers is working hard to clean it up.
The popular worldwide movement for cleaning the environment and picking up rubbish is good. Unfortunately, I also use plastic now, but not the plastic we have found here. We will recycle everything in accordance to all radiation safety standards.
The Chernobyl exclusion zone had been deserted for almost 33 years, and the volunteers want to leave it like it was the day the residents fled.
This bottle is from the time before the explosion, which means some things are historical items. We don't put them in the trash. We leave alone belongings from the time of the disaster.
Tourism to the area has developed to a point where it can no longer be stopped. Locals hope visitors will come for the history and leave their trash at home.
Well, last week, scientists made an epic discovery about an ancient Egyptian ship, which confirmed something written by Herodotus thousands of years ago. Now, we spoke to one of those scientists and asked him to tell us how he and his team came to find what they did.
Well, it came little by little. We found 75 ancient shipwrecks sunken in the harbor of Tony-Serrakeyon. We selected one and we started to excavate. And little by little, we understood that we were on the spot of a boat called Bari, which was a boat described by Herodotus. And every day, everything Herodotus had written on such a boat was proved by what we were finding on the spot. Thus, it was a great pleasure. It's an important discovery, because such a boat had never been discovered. As a matter of fact, it's the first Egyptian boat ever discovered underwater. And those boats were essential for the trade and the life of that period, because they were the kind of usual vehicles, in the delta of the Nile, which were used by ancient Egyptians during that period. Herodotus spoke and wrote quite a lot about that city that we discovered underwater. One of the things he's saying is very strange. He says that King Menelaos and Queen Helena came into that place upon their return from the Troja War. And he's adding something very, very strange. He says that the slave of King Menelaos took asylum in that temple of that city. And as a matter of fact, we found a colossal stele, big inscribed granite stone, which is talking about the asylum right of that temple. Thus, what Herodotus tells us about that city is quite a lot proof by what we are finding underwater.
Okay, let's go around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Monday. Amazon likes people who drink and then go shopping. It turns out that people make less rational decisions when under the influence of alcohol. Who would have guessed it? The Hustle, an online site, say they spoke to 2,000 adults in the US and found that people spend on average $400 a month on stuff while intoxicated. That's $48 billion a year in drunk purchases. There are no details on hungover returns. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul could be turned into a mosque. The Byzantine cathedral was converted to a mosque by the Ottomans in 1453. It was turned into a museum in 1935. Now this is from on board a cruise ship over the weekend. Just over 1,000 people had to deal with some very rough seas while they waited to be rescued from the big old boat which was left stranded because of engine troubles. The lady who filmed these clips says her name is Alexis Shepherd. Now 2 people who survived the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman at Douglas High School in Florida have committed suicide in the past week. Sydney Aiello was 19 when she killed herself last weekend. Police say another student took their own life this weekend. Miss Aiello's parents say their daughter was suffering from survivor's guilt. Now next up, Nasibe went to meet a man who had set himself an unenviable task. He's on a windsurfing expedition which is taking him, his board and his sail around the coast of Europe. And he just passed through Istanbul.
Since I was a kid, really, I had the ambition to windsurf around Britain, and it took me many, many years to realise that ambition. But in 2015, I went around Britain, unsupported by a windsurfer, and that opened my eyes to the possibility of a bigger trip. And there seemed to be a kind of logic to, after you go around your country, you go around your continent. Most days I do probably at least 6 hours. So I take my pockets are full of chocolate bars, and if I'm well organised, I have a sandwich in my bag. And maybe I stop on the sea, or if it's a nice, easy coastline to stop on, maybe I pop in and stop on the beach, listening to music, partly because I want to save battery, but partly because I just prefer to be to be able to experience nature fully. The biggest problem is when you get big waves and you haven't got a good place to stop, because then it's very difficult to get in safely. So I landed at Istanbul on 1st of January, found that people are really kind and nice, and I'm very relaxed and happy now to be starting this section of the journey. I am a little bit thinking about what comes next, but I try harder to just keep myself in the experience of what I'm doing now, and just there's a slight timetable, because I have a plan to, after I finish the sailing part, I have a plan to then take a bicycle and cycle back to northern Norway. So, and I need to do that before winter comes to the Arctic. But other than that, I just go at a rhythm that comes naturally, and try and not think ahead too much about what comes next at the moment. I certainly do recommend that everybody pursues the dreams and ambitions that they have, because well, for me, in my case, I've been a much happier person since I started to do that.
Well done to him. And in our Animals Doing Stuff today, we take you to Menga Town in southwest China, where this has been happening. Yes, that is an elephant seemingly heading down to the store to get his bits. It's not really, of course. It's a male Asian elephant, and the local vets say that the guy was forced out of his herd by a better male. It's harsh. So this guy decided to try his luck among the humans, and while friendly elephants were in short supply in the town, he did manage to find 9 cars to destroy. Smashy, smashy. That'll be all from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter and YouTube, and you can follow me on Instagram. Follow, subscribe, see you again tomorrow.